Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Myra Lorraine. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to watch my videos. I really do appreciate it. Now, the topic of this video is going to be something that I thought about. It wasn't planned, but I was getting ready to clone another ready-to-wear top that's pretty old. I think I've had it over 2 years, and it's stretched out of shape and it's getting peely, so it's time for me to retire. But I thought, since I wore it so much, why don't I go ahead and clone it? Now, there were a lot of questions out there about cloning, watching people and their process and how they actually clone their ready-to-wear. So I thought, let me go ahead and record this while I'm doing it so people can see how I do it. Now, my way is not the right way, and that's not what I'm saying. This is just what I do. And I basically started doing it following a lady that did it quite a bit, and she did things from scratch, but she did a lot of stuff from ready to wear. She just, whenever she wanted something, she would use that, and she'd even hack some of the ready to wear to make it, but she was really good. And there are a lot of people out there who actually do show you how they clone their things. Now, depending on what you're cloning, the difficulty level, and something like a t-shirt, super easy to clone. A pencil skirt, super easy to clone, if you own those pieces. So it always depends on what you're attempting to clone. Now for me, let me back up and tell you, the lady that I used to follow, she's no longer with us. It's very, very sad. But her name was Misha, and she was just a beautiful soul, and she did a lot of this kind of stuff, and it was great. Now, I learned a lot of tips from her and watching her, because I watched every one of her videos. I did. And I loved, and she was still with us. I'd still be watching her videos. Actually, I still do. They're still out there. I still do watch occasionally the ones that I've saved and have access to. But anyways, so when I started to clone this top, and what I'll do is move over here so I can put a picture up here of the original top, I thought, it's a little bit difficult because of the straps. And yeah, you can see I have one on it, looks close to it, and I'll tell you about that a little later. But what I did was, while I was tracing this top and duplicating it, I thought I wanted to go ahead and record it, and I hope I did okay, because I'm not really good at showing videos on how I do things yet. I'm practicing. I'm trying to get better for you all, but I wanted to show you the process that I use and how I do it. So I made a few clips and I put them together for you all, and I'm going to show you that, and then I'll come back later and I'll talk about this top. So I hope you enjoy this little clip that I've done about cloning my ready-to-wear top. Hope you enjoy. See you shortly. Okay, first let's talk about the tools. This that I'm showing you is an overstitch wheel tool. I purchased it on Amazon. It has nice spiky edges which will perforate the paper. I'll put all the information on the screen as well as down in the description box for you. We'll also need some pins, as well as that brown paper, which is what I use for my pattern paper. It's called masking paper. I purchased at Lowe's. The whole roll was about $4.38 or something like that. Now, this is what I do is I fold the front half of the t-shirt, making sure that the side seams match up. And then for my benefit, I like to pin the top down to my paper in my cutting board. And then I trace around, pressing hard to make sure that the tool perforates the pattern paper, or the paper that I'm using for the pattern. But I'll stitch around all of the edges, from the front, the top, the shoulders, around the armholes, through both the material and the pattern paper. Then I remove the top from the paper, and as you'll see, I don't know how well you can see it, but there's perforations all the way around that show the pattern where I traced it. What I'll do next is I'll go in, and on those perforations I will just trace over them to make sure the pattern is visible when I get ready to go ahead and cut it. Now at this point, I'm very, very careful to make sure that I get all of my lines straight on this pattern. So I use a French curve, and this tiny little, it's called a mini French curve, I actually got from the lovely Andrea of Sew to Fit. It was a free download, and all I did was printed it out on cardstock, and I've been using that one piece for years, and I use it a lot. As you see, all the ink was all over it. Now we're going to continue tracing around all of the areas of the perforated paper where I wanted to create my pattern piece. Now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and add my seam allowances all around the edge and on the bottom. On the bottom, I actually created a 1-inch hem allowance. All other areas will be a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And there's no rule for how much allowance you make. It's dependent upon what you want to do. And in my case, I did a 1/2 inch seam allowance and 1-inch hem allowance. After that's done, you're going to go ahead and cut out your pattern piece, which I'm doing, being very careful to cut it out. Now that that's cut out, what I want to do is make sure that I put all of the seam allowance measures on my pattern piece, so that in the future when I pull this out, I don't have to go back and remeasure those seam allowances and hem allowance to see what I gave myself. And believe me, I know from experience. Now that that's done, we're going to follow the exact same process for the back of this t-shirt. You're going to fold it in half, making sure that your seam allowances match. And then I go ahead and I pin it down to the paper in preparation for tracing. Once that's done, then I go and finish up by tracing those perforated lines, adding the seam allowance to my pattern piece, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut that pattern piece off. The next thing I'm going to do is the same process for the sleeve. But because I want a one-piece sleeve pattern, I am actually tracing it a half at a time. And right now I'm actually tracing the back part of the sleeve. And then I'm going to flip it over, keeping it centered, and I'm going to do the front part of the sleeve. And the reason that I do that is because normally the back of the sleeve has a different bit of a curve than the front, and you want to make sure that that works in the proper way. As you can see, I'm doing here, I'm actually lining it back up to that perforated line, and then I'm going to check to make sure those side seams are matching and it fits well, and I'm going to go ahead and trace out that back curve, the front curve for the pattern piece. When that's done, you go ahead and you trace all around the perforations as we did in the first two pattern pieces, using my little French curve from the lovely Andrea again, marking my pattern piece, making sure that I name what the piece is. I did on the other two pieces as well. And then I'm going to add the seam allowances like I did on the others, which will be a 1/2 inch seam allowance in my case. Now here I'm actually using this to my straight ruler to go around the outside curves of the sleeve. That's what I meant on the other one. Some people will use their little straight ruler to make those curves. Once that's done, you go ahead and cut out your sleeve pattern, being careful not to cut into anything, which I was very careful in not doing. And you'll be all done with cutting out your pattern pieces. Now that you have all of them, 3 in my case for this particular shirt, You make sure that you have all your markings, and if you want to put notches, you put those notches, and make sure that at this point you true up and make sure that everything fits from the shoulder seams to the lower part of the arm side all the way down to the hem. You want to make sure that everything matches. And as I stated before, put in your notches if you want to use notches. And that's it, your pattern pieces will be done. But now in my case with this particular shirt, I have a few more things that I have to do. As you see, there's some bands around the neck and around the top of the shoulders, as well as some shoulder straps. I'll go ahead and cut those off screen, but typically these bands are 1.5 inches wide and whatever length you need them to be. And then that's it, that's all you have to do. Okay, welcome back guys. I hope you enjoyed that little clip of me tracing my ready-to-wear top. And what I did was I went and grabbed the muslin that I first made. And this muslin was pretty big. It was way too big. But I'm not going to toss it. It's not a water. I'm going to use it for pajamas because I really love the softness of this rayon jersey knit. I believe I got it from Joann Fabrics a while ago, and I made another cow neck top out of the same fabric because I had enough. But it was, I absolutely love this fabric, so I didn't want to grip, so it's now pajamas for me. But it was really big on me. I had some problems trying to work this V-neck on the first time. And then in the back, when I did the straps, I don't know if you can see that, the straps were way too big, and so I had to shorten them, and I couldn't figure out any other way. So what I did was I folded it down on itself and I just stitched it. And that's why I said this isn't going to be tossed, it's going to be pajamas because, you know, and it looks good because I've actually worn it several times as pajamas already since I made it, and I really like them. I just throw in some of my pajama shorts with it and I'm good to go. Very comfy. But anyways, that was my first muslin. And this, even though this fabric I actually got from Joann Fabrics too, very colorful, it's a rayon jersey knit. But this one is going to be a muslin too, but it's going to be a wearable muslin because it's still a little too big for me. Even though I went down a size on it, I'm going to have to go down another size because it's still a little too big for my comfort level. I don't like fiddly clothes that I have to fiddle with all of the time, and the original top, until it stretched out of shape, wasn't fiddly, and I like that. And I probably didn't take that into consideration when I was tracing it, that it had stretched out of shape already because I'd worn it so much. But anyways, it turned out pretty good, I think so, and I like it, and I'm going to wear it. But I am going to make another one, like I said, and size down everything on this top. But anyway, here's the top. Let me go all the way back a little bit so you guys can see and stand up. Here's the top. The reason why I say it's a little fiddly because sometimes it wants to drop down and show a little bit more than I want to show. But I like the peekaboo aspect of it. It can be pulled down over the shoulders like this, but I don't choose to wear it that way. I didn't wear the other one that way, and I don't want to wear this one that way because, you know, it'll keep popping up and you have to keep popping it down. I just like the little peekaboo shoulders on it. But anyway, here's the top. It's long. Let's put this down here. It has slits on the side. Come on, you can see there. It has little slits on the side that I put in there. It's a tiny bit longer in the back than it is in the front. And here's the back. Let's see if I can push this back so you guys can see. Sorry about flashing anyone, but here's the back. And I really do like it. And I plan on keeping it, but I definitely am going to make another one. And I don't know, I probably won't bring it back with the other one and bore you guys with a third version. So I just wanted to show you how I copy my ready to wear when it's something that I really want to keep and I really like it. And I try not to do anything too difficult. I think this is the most difficult I've ever done with a ready to wear. And one of the things, duplicating a ready to wear. And one of the reasons why is because the straps. As you see, I had to figure out how the straps were actually put onto this. And it worked out pretty good by looking at the the garment. But when you're doing something like this, if you're a beginner, that's where the experience comes in. Like I said, a little t-shirt, that's easy for just about anyone to do. A pencil skirt, same thing. But something like this, where you have to figure out how they how they did the pieces together, that may be a little more difficult. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And if you did, remember, like I always say, please give me a thumbs up if you like it. Comment so that I can read your comments. I really like to do that. And if you like, subscribe, and I hope you do. All right, now, see you in the next video. Bye now.